Donald Trump is confused, deeply, dangerously confused about nuclear weapons. This isn't just a slip of the tongue or another political stunt. This is confusion about the most destructive force ever created by humankind. And when someone who once had access to the nuclear code starts talking about restarting nuclear tests, the entire world should stop and listen. It all began with a headline: Trump orders new nuclear weapons tests. At first, it looked like another outburst from a man obsessed with power and dominance. But when you dig deeper, it becomes clear that Trump isn't just speaking nonsense. He's revealing something darker, something rooted in ego, ignorance, and fear. When reporters caught up to him aboard Air Force One, Trump rambled about nuclear superiority, testing programs, and something he called denuclearization. Except his version of denuclearization makes absolutely no sense. He said he wants to start testing nuclear weapons again so that other nations will stop. Think about that for a second. He wants to escalate in order to de-escalate. That isn't strategy. That's chaos disguised as strength. Trump went on claiming that the United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country. That's false. Russia still holds the world's largest stockpile of nuclear warheads. Experts have known this for decades. But Trump either doesn't know or doesn't care. He kept repeating that America was #1 in nukes, that he modernized the entire arsenal during his first term, and that it was all thanks to his leadership. That, too, is a lie. The modernization program he bragged about was started under President Barack Obama. Trump merely inherited it. He did not design it, he did not approve it, and he clearly didn't understand it. But in typical Trump fashion, he saw an opportunity to take credit. Because for him, power is not about truth. It's about image. Then came his so-called nuclear order. He said he had instructed the Department of War to begin testing nuclear weapons immediately. That single word, immediately, is terrifying. Because nuclear testing is not something you just start. It requires years of planning, preparation, and coordination with international bodies. The idea that Trump thinks you can just dig a hole in the desert and push a button shows a level of ignorance that borders on insanity. But that's how he speaks, off the cuff, impulsive, and detached from reality. Reporters asked him for details. When would testing begin? Where would it take place? Trump shrugged and said, "We have test sites. It will be announced." That's not how a responsible leader talks about nuclear weapons. That's how a mob boss talks about a deal. Vague, reckless, and dangerous. Behind those words lies a pattern. Trump has always been obsessed with appearing strong, stronger than Putin, tougher than Xi Jinping, more feared than Kim Jong-un. He admires dictators. He imitates their language, their posture, their tone. When he calls the Department of Defense the Department of War, that isn't an accident. It's deliberate. It's a statement. He's trying to project dominance, the illusion of a wartime leader surrounded by enemies. It's the same psychological playbook used by every authoritarian figure in history. Build fear, inflate ego, manufacture conflict. But what's driving this sudden nuclear talk? Analysts believe it's reactionary. Russia recently claimed to have tested a nuclear-powered cruise missile. China is expanding its arsenal. And instead of responding with strategy or diplomacy, Trump's instinct was to shout, "We will do it too." That's not leadership. That's mimicry. It's the reaction of a man who sees international relations as a reality show, where strength is measured by explosions. Experts in national security say this is dangerous theater. The United States stopped nuclear testing in 1992. Since then, every responsible nuclear power, except North Korea, has relied on advanced computer simulations and subcritical tests to ensure the safety and reliability of their weapons. We don't need to explode bombs to prove we have them. Technology has advanced far beyond that. But Trump doesn't understand. To him, power must be visible. He wants the show. He wants the fire. He wants the applause. He wants to see the flash in the sky because he believes that's what strength looks like. This isn't just scientific ignorance. It's moral blindness. Nuclear testing has poisoned lands, destroyed ecosystems, and killed generations through radiation exposure. People in Nevada, the Marshall Islands, and Kazakhstan still live with the consequences of past tests. The air, the soil, the water all scarred by fallout. And yet Trump, who calls himself a patriot, wants to bring that nightmare back just to feel powerful again. His obsession with appearing strong comes from insecurity. He spent years comparing himself to Putin and Xi. In his mind, they are strong because they control through fear. Trump envies that control. He has always wanted to rule, not govern. He prefers giving orders over building consensus. That's why his language sounds so authoritarian. He doesn't say we. He says I, always I. I have instructed. I decide. I order. Those are the words of a ruler, not a leader. Even his logic falls apart. He says he wants peace through denuclearization, yet he advocates more testing. You cannot achieve peace by building more bombs. You cannot disarm through intimidation. What he's really proposing is a return to Cold War thinking, a mindset that nearly destroyed civilization once before. During the Cold War, both the United States and the Soviet Union learned how close they could come to extinction. The Cuban Missile Crisis was the closest the world ever came to nuclear war, and it was avoided only because of rational leadership and restraint. Trump doesn't believe in restraint. He believes in reaction. He believes in spectacle. And when spectacle is mixed with nuclear capability, the consequences could be catastrophic. Even his basic understanding of nuclear defense is flawed. He doesn't grasp the concept of the nuclear triad, the three pillars of America's deterrent force: land-based missiles, air-based bombers, and submarine-launched weapons. He once struggled to explain it during a presidential debate. Now, years later, he's pretending to command it. When someone who doesn't understand the fundamentals starts issuing orders about nuclear testing, every military expert should be alarmed. And there's more to this confusion. It's also about ego. Trump constantly repeats that America's arsenal is the biggest, the best, the strongest. Those are not the words of a strategist. Those are the words of a showman desperate for validation. Whenever Putin announces a new missile or China reveals a new submarine, Trump feels personally challenged. He doesn't want to be outdone. He doesn't want to look small. So he reacts, not as a statesman, but as a performer seeking applause. The Pentagon knows this. They know it's not policy. They know it's noise. But the real danger is that his words still reach millions. Every time he speaks carelessly about nuclear power, he normalizes recklessness. He conditions people to equate destruction with pride. That's how civilizations stumble into disaster, through the slow erosion of common sense. Some laugh it off, saying Trump's just being Trump. But history shows that when powerful men talk casually about war, those words can become orders. Testing leads to production. Production leads to stockpiling. Stockpiling leads to paranoia. And paranoia leads to war. It's a chain reaction of madness. What makes it worse is that Trump still calls this strength. He believes real strength comes from showing your weapons. But true strength comes from not having to. It comes from restraint, from diplomacy, from understanding that power is most effective when it's under control. Every serious military expert knows that nuclear restraint is a sign of confidence, not weakness. You don't prove your strength by detonating bombs. You prove it by preventing them from ever being used. The words he uses reveal a deep hunger for control. Calling it the Department of War is not a mistake. It's psychological rebranding. He wants to shape government in his image, a machine of aggression instead of defense. That is how dictators think. They rename, they redefine, and they rewrite the purpose of power until fear becomes normal. Some analysts think this nuclear talk is also a distraction. Whenever Trump faces legal pressure or political trouble, he creates chaos. He floods the media with something outrageous so the public forgets what's really happening. This time it could be about ongoing investigations, hidden documents, or a Supreme Court case that may expand presidential authority. While everyone debates his nuclear comments, he quietly reshapes the narrative behind the scenes. This chaos is deliberate. Authoritarian leaders thrive on confusion. They keep people guessing. They drown truth in noise. When nothing feels certain, the public stops paying attention. That's when power consolidates. Trump's nuclear confusion fits that same pattern. It's not random. It's tactical confusion. Because in chaos, truth loses meaning. And when truth dies, accountability follows. He's already behaving like a man who sees himself above the law. He says, I instruct, not we decide. He bypasses institutions. He frames everything as a personal command. And when he does that with something as serious as nuclear testing, the danger is existential. Because nuclear weapons are not a political toy. They are humanity's doomsday switch. The American system was designed to prevent exactly this kind of concentration of power, checks and balances, oversight, shared responsibility. But those systems only work if leaders respect them. Trump doesn't. He sees them as obstacles. He has spent years trying to bend institutions to his will. And the frightening part is that many people cheer him for it. They call his recklessness courage. They call his ignorance strength. But confusion about nuclear weapons isn't strength. It's weakness pretending to be bravery. He contradicts himself constantly. He says he wants peace but promotes war. He says he wants safety but glorifies destruction. He says denuclearization but pushes for escalation. Every sentence undermines the last. It's incoherent and dangerous. And beyond the politics, there's something deeply moral at stake. Trump doesn't seem to understand that nuclear war isn't winnable. It isn't survivable. It's extinction. When he talks about testing nukes as if it's a military exercise, he forgets that every test leaves behind suffering. The radioactive dust doesn't care who dropped it. It poisons everything. Plants, animals, people. Entire generations pay the price. Scientists, historians, and military veterans know what nuclear testing did to the world. They remember the images of mushroom clouds over the Pacific, the silence afterward, and the children born sick from invisible radiation. Those are not symbols of power. They are warnings. And yet Trump wants to bring them back, out of pride, out of ignorance, out of showmanship. Many experts believe Trump is being manipulated by Putin. When Russia announces a test, Trump rushes to respond so he won't look weak. Putin wins without even firing a shot. He knows exactly how to bait Trump through ego. Trump believes he's matching strength, but in reality, he's copying his rivals and weakening his own country in the process. At its core, this isn't about weapons. It's about power. Trump's obsession with it, his misunderstanding of it, and his desperation to keep it. Every statement he makes reveals a man more concerned with appearances than with survival. He doesn't seek peace. He seeks control. He doesn't care about deterrence. He cares about dominance. And he doesn't fear the bomb because he's never truly understood what it means. When he says, start testing immediately, he's not thinking about global safety or diplomatic fallout. He's thinking about attention. He's imagining the headlines, the cameras, the roar of approval from his base. He wants to be remembered as the man who made America powerful again, even if that power comes at the cost of global stability. But there is nothing powerful about ignorance. There is nothing patriotic about endangering humanity. If this mindset returns to the White House, decades of nuclear restraint could unravel overnight. Treaties could collapse. Alliances could fracture. Rival nations could feel compelled to respond. And the chain reaction wouldn't just be political. It would be planetary. Because every test releases toxins that last for centuries. Once released, they don't go away. They linger in soil, in oceans, in the DNA of life itself.